The starship Aurora Reach moved silently through the deep space, its silver body shining against the dark sky. Inside the ship, thousands of crew members worked every day to protect the peace of many worlds. Among them was Captain Mira Hayes, a human officer known for her calm mind, clear thinking, and strong heart. She was not the strongest on the ship, not the fastest, and not the tallest, but every person respected her because she never gave up, no matter how difficult the situation became. On this particular day, Mira stood alone inside the giant training hall of the ship. The hall was so wide that even her soft breaths echoed. Bright lights shone from above, and the metal floor felt cool under her boots. She waited quietly, her hands behind her back, her expression steady. She had been called here to meet her new mission partner, someone she had never trained with before. The ship's officers had warned her that he was different from anyone she had ever worked with. Stronger, taller, sharper, more serious. They said he almost never smiled and spoke only when needed. Some called him cold, others called him strict. Many said they felt nervous just standing near him, but Mira was not afraid. She believed every person had a reason for being the way they were. She believed every person carried stories inside them. Stories of pain, stories of hope, stories of fear, and stories of courage. Mira wanted to understand him, not judge him before meeting him. Suddenly, the heavy door of the hall opened with a deep metallic sound. A tall figure stepped inside. Mira's eyes rose slightly as she looked at him. She knew instantly that this must be Commander Rix of the Varnox, a different species known for physical strength, endurance, and disciplined hearts. Rix walked toward her with slow and steady steps. His body was tall like a tower, covered in gray-scaled skin that looked smooth yet strong. His bright amber eyes glowed softly in the white lights. His shoulders were wide, his movements controlled, and his presence powerful. He looked like someone who carried the weight of many worlds on his back. As he approached, Mira stood straight. She felt the wave of quiet energy around him, like calm thunder. Rix finally stopped a few feet away from her, studying her carefully. For several long seconds, he said nothing. He simply observed her. Her height, her smaller frame, her gentle eyes, her relaxed breath. He noticed the difference between them in size, shape, and physical strength. Then, in a low and steady voice, he spoke the first words. "You bleed easy, human." The words were not meant to insult her. Rix only spoke facts. In his culture, direct words were normal, not harsh. Humans were seen as softer compared to Varnox soldiers. Their skin was thinner, their bones lighter, their strength lower. It was simple biology, but the words could easily hurt someone. Mira did not feel hurt. She did not step back. Instead, she lifted her chin slightly, looking straight into his bright amber eyes. Her voice was calm, steady, and clear. "Then watch closely," she said. Rix blinked once slowly. The answer surprised him. His jaw tightened for a moment, then relaxed. For a brief second, just a small moment, something like respect flashed in his eyes. No one had answered him like that before. Most humans looked away. Some became quiet. Some tried to prove themselves through loud words or unnecessary confidence. But Mira did not raise her voice, and she did not pretend. She simply responded with courage, without anger or fear. Her calmness caught his attention. Rix straightened slightly. When he spoke again, his voice was even, almost thoughtful. "You do not fear my words?" Mira shook her head gently. "I do not fear truth. And I do not fear you." The air around them shifted. The tension between human and Varnox softened like ice under warm light. Rix tilted his head, studying her again. "You speak simply." "And clearly," Mira answered with a soft smile. Rix did not smile back, but his eyes narrowed slightly in interest. There was no mockery, only observation. "We are assigned to work together. You understand the mission?" "I do," she replied. "And I am ready." He looked over her again. "You are smaller than the partners I usually work with, and you are taller than mine," Mira replied lightly. For the first time, Rix almost looked confused. Not insulted, confused. Humans rarely spoke so easily to him. Mira's simple tone felt new to him, but not unpleasant. He finally gave a slow nod. "Very well. We begin now. Show me how you move." Mira nodded politely. "As you wish." The training hall remained silent except for their steps as they walked to the open floor. Rick stood at one end of the hall, his arms crossed. Mira stood at the center, waiting. He observed her closely, her posture, her breathing, the calm way she prepared herself. She was not tense. She was not shaking. She was steady, like someone who accepted challenges with grace. "Begin," he said. Mira moved forward smoothly. She did not rush. Her steps were light but sure. She performed basic stances, defensive forms, and controlled movements. Her technique was clean, her rhythm controlled. She did not show unnecessary strength. Instead, she showed balance, focus, and heart. Rix watched silently. At first, he noticed her smaller strength. But within minutes, he noticed something else. She never hesitated. She never lost control. Her motions flowed like gentle waves, soft yet steady. Most humans tried to impress him by pushing too hard.
Mira did not.
She simply showed pure discipline. After several minutes, Rick said, "Stop." Mira stopped at once and looked at him. He walked toward her slowly, towering over her. "Your form is correct," he said. "But your strength is low." "I know," she replied. "You accept this with no argument?" "I accept facts," she said gently. "But I also improve. That is why I am here." Rix paused. He had expected excuses, explanations, or empty promises. Instead, she offered truth. Simple, honest truth. He nodded once. Again, they continued training. Mira moved, Rix observed. She practiced stances, steps, and dodges, and he corrected her when needed. His voice was strict but never rude. His instructions were precise, like a teacher who cared about accuracy. Mira listened to every word. She did not complain. She did not sigh. She accepted feedback and improved quickly. Rix felt something unexpected rising inside him. Quiet respect. After another long set, he said, "Rest." Mira inhaled deeply, nodding as she stepped back to catch her breath. Rix did not move. He continued watching her with thoughtful eyes. "You do not give up," he said. "It is not my way," Mira replied softly. "You do not show fear. There is nothing to fear here." Rix narrowed his eyes slightly. "You are unusual," Mira smiled gently. "I hear that often." Rix remained silent for a few seconds, then asked, "Why were you chosen for this mission?" "Because I stay calm under pressure," Mira answered. "And because I do not break easily." Rix looked at her slowly, his expression unreadable. "We will see." Mira met his eyes. "Yes, watch closely." Those words again. And again they struck something inside him, not anger, not challenge, something warm, something curious, something that felt like the beginning of trust. After the training session, they walked out of the hall together. Their steps were quiet, their thoughts separate but starting to touch. Rix finally asked, "Do you have questions for me?" "Yes," Mira replied. "Why did you say humans bleed easy?" He looked ahead, not at her. "It is what I was taught. Your species is known for softness, and softness is bad?" Rix thought for a moment. "Not always," he admitted. Mira smiled quietly. "Then let us see what softness can do." He gave a slow nod. "Very well." As they reached the long corridor leading to their rooms, Rix stopped. Mira turned to him. "Tomorrow," he said, "we train harder. I will be ready." Rix's amber eyes softened for the first time. "I believe you." Mira nodded with a gentle expression. "Thank you." Rix stepped back, watching her leave. The hall lights reflected on her small figure as she walked through the corridor. He had met many humans, but none like her. She was quiet, steady and full of courage, not loud courage, not sudden courage, but warm courage that grew from calm strength. Rix realized something as he stood alone. This human would change the path of his life, and he would watch closely. The next morning arrived quietly on the starship Aurora Reach. Soft blue lights glowed along the walls as the ship moved smoothly through the silent galaxy. Captain Mira Hayes walked toward the mission deck with steady steps, holding a small tablet in her hand. Her eyes looked calm, but her mind was awake and ready. Today she and Commander Rix would begin their first official mission together. Mira reached the mission control room and stepped inside. Bright screens covered the walls, showing maps, signals, and reports from different planets. Officers worked around her, speaking softly into their devices. In the center of the room stood Rix. He noticed Mira the moment she entered. He stood tall as always, his gray, scaled skin softly reflecting the room's lights. His posture was straight, his expression focused. But Mira could see something new in his eyes, something lighter than yesterday. "Mira Hayes," he said with a respectful nod. "Commander Ricks," she replied with a small smile. An officer stepped forward holding a data pad. "Your mission briefing is ready." Ricks and Mira stood side by side as the officer explained. A small outpost on the edge of the galaxy had stopped sending updates. The outpost was responsible for observing a peaceful blue planet below. There were no signs of danger, but sudden silence from a research station was never good. "You will investigate the communication loss," the officer said. "We suspect a system failure, but you must confirm. Move carefully. No one has responded for 2 days." Mira nodded. "Understood." Ricks took the data pad. "We leave at once." As they walked toward the shuttle bay, Mira felt the quiet between them. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was calm, like a space waiting to be filled with understanding. Ricks finally spoke. "You slept well?" "Yes," Mira replied. "You?" "I do not sleep like humans. My body rests in short cycles." Mira nodded. "Does that work for you?" "Yes," he said simply. "I have done it since childhood." She looked at him thoughtfully. "Your species must be very strong." Ricks did not show pride or prideful emotion. He spoke like he always did, simple and true. "Strength is common among the Varnox, yes. But that does not mean we feel no weakness." Mira glanced at him gently. "Every species feels weakness." His amber eyes turned toward her for a brief moment. There was a quiet understanding growing between them. Inside the shuttle bay, their small exploration craft waited. Mira stepped inside first, checking the seats and controls. Ricks followed her, securing the supply packs. "Ready?" she asked. Ricks sat down in the co-pilot seat. "Yes, begin launch." The shuttle lifted smoothly, sliding out of the bay and into open space. The view outside was breathtaking, stars scattered like soft white dust, planets glowing far below, and the silent beauty of the galaxy stretching endlessly. Ricks checked the navigation screen. "The outpost is 10 minutes away." Mira nodded. "Let's hope everything is fine." "Hope is good," Ricks said. "But caution is better." Mira laughed softly. "We can have both." Ricks did not laugh, but something warmed in his eyes. When the shuttle reached the small outpost, it looked strange from the start. The lights outside flickered weakly. The doors were closed, but the docking system did not respond to Mira's signal. "It is like the station is asleep," she said quietly. Ricks stood behind her, his eyes scanning every detail. "We must enter manually." They attached the shuttle to the emergency port. With a soft click, the door opened and Mira stepped inside with her small flashlight. Ricks followed, his large figure blocking most of the doorway for a moment before he stepped through. The air inside the station felt still, like a room waiting for someone to speak. Mira took a slow breath. "It smells untouched." "Yes," Ricks said. "Nothing moved recently." The hall was dim but clean. No sign of struggle. No sign of danger. Just silence. Mira checked a small console. The screen blinked weakly, showing an old report. It seems they were observing the planet normally. And nothing strange. Rick studied the room carefully. "Let us move deeper." They walked through the corridors. Every few steps, Mira checked a panel, but each one showed the same thing. Normal data, no messages, no warnings. Rick stopped at one corner, looking up at a vent. "Mira," he said gently. "Stand back." Mira moved aside. Ricks took a deep breath and pushed the vent cover gently with his hand. It fell easily, dusty, untouched. "Air system has not moved in 2 days," he said. "So they did stop working suddenly," Mira whispered. They continued their search until they reached a hidden room at the far end of the outpost. The door opened slowly, revealing a small glowing core in the center, a communication stabilizer. Mira walked forward. "It's damaged. A cable hung loose." Tiny sparks appeared every few minutes, releasing unstable waves into the air. It wasn't dangerous, but it explained why communication stopped. "Can you fix it?" Ricks asked. "Yes," Mira said, stepping closer. "It's simple work." But just as she touched the broken panel, a small spark jumped out and brushed her arm. She pulled back quickly, feeling a sharp warmth. Ouch, Ricks turned instantly. His steps were quick and firm. "You are hurt?" "It's just a small scratch," she said, holding her arm. He looked at the thin line of red. His expression softened. Even small injuries should not be ignored. Mira felt surprised by his concern. She expected him to stay professional, distant, but his eyes showed worry. calm worry but real. "It's okay," she said. "Humans heal fast." Rix did not seem convinced. "Still, you must be careful," Mira smiled. "Thank you." She wrapped a small cloth around her arm and returned to work. Rix stayed beside her, watching every movement closely. "You continue even when hurt," he observed quietly. "It's a small thing," she replied. "We cannot stop because of small things." Rix looked at her for a long moment. "I understand." When she finished repairing the stabilizer, the lights in the room became steady again. The outpost woke up slowly, systems returning to life. But the bigger discovery came when they checked the crew quarters. They found a report left on a table, written 2 days earlier. Mira read it aloud. The research team left the station because the planet below showed peaceful signs. They moved to a nearby base for better study. They planned to return later. Rix nodded. "So there was no danger?" Mira smiled with relief. "Just a small technical problem." "Small," Rix repeated, glancing at her bandaged arm. She laughed softly. "Very small." When they returned to the shuttle, Rix surprised her with a quiet comment. "You are different from the other humans I trained with." Mira raised a brow lightly. "Different in what way?" "You work with calmness," he said. "You do not fear mistakes. You do not complain." She smiled gently. "Does that make me unusual?" "Yes," he said honestly. "Is that good or bad?" She asked playfully. Rix thought for a moment. His voice softened. "Good." Mira felt warmth rise in her chest. She looked forward through the shuttle window, watching the stars shimmer like silver dust. Rix sat beside her, silent but thoughtful. Finally, he said something that made her look at him. "When I said humans bleed easy," he began, "I expected you to feel offended." "I did not," she replied. "Why?" "Because I saw no insult. I only saw your truth." Rix studied her profile, the calm way she sat, the soft strength in her eyes. "It surprised me." Mira looked at him with a gentle smile. "You surprised me too." He blinked slowly. "How?" "You care more than you show," she said softly. Rix turned silent. Not because he disagreed, but because he understood she was right. When they reached the Aurora Reach, the officers congratulated them for restoring the outpost. Mira reported everything clearly. Rix added details when needed. After the debriefing, they walked down the wide corridor together. Rix spoke first. "You worked well today." "Thank you," Mira said. "You moved with balance," he continued. "And you remained steady even when hurt." Mira smiled a little. "You noticed everything." "You asked me to watch closely," he replied simply. Mira paused at that, her heart warming at his calm honesty. "And did you?" she asked. Rix looked down at her, tall, strong, thoughtful. "Yes, and I will continue." Mira met his eyes softly. "So will I." They stood there for a moment in quiet understanding. The space between them felt delicate but real, a beginning. Small yet steady, not friendship yet, not trust yet, but the early shape of both. Their fragile alliance had started forming, quietly, gently, and with promise. The starship Aurora Reach moved through deep space with a soft hum, its lights glowing like tiny stars on metal walls. For most crew members, this day felt normal, but for Mira Hayes and Commander Rix, it felt like the beginning of something new. 2 days had passed since their mission to the silent outpost. Since then, Mira noticed something different in Rix's behavior. He still walked with firm steps. He still spoke in simple, direct words, but his eyes had changed. He watched her carefully, not with doubt, but with interest, with quiet respect. And Mira, too, found herself thinking about him more often than expected. His strength, his stillness, his calm way of speaking, all of it felt familiar now, like a presence that brought comfort instead of fear. Their training session for the day began early in the morning. The training hall was bright and wide, filled with long shadows stretching across the floor. Mira stood at the center, stretching her arms slowly. Her shoulder was fully healed now, and she felt lighter, ready to move. Rix entered exactly on time, his tall figure casting a long shape behind him. He held a training staff in one hand and a data pad in the other. "You arrive early," he said. "So do you," Mira replied with a soft smile. He nodded slightly. "Good. We begin with exercises that build balance and reflex." Mira stepped forward. "I'm ready." Rix watched her for a moment. Then he spoke gently. Show me your breathing form. Mira closed her eyes, taking a slow breath. She moved into her stance, letting her muscles relax. Her breath flowed in and out softly like wind passing through leaves. Rix observed quietly. She moved with grace, even though her body was small. Her motions were steady, smooth, and full of control. Her breathing synced with each step. Rix walked slowly around her, studying each detail, not to judge, but to understand her deeper. When she finished, he said, "Your control is improving." "It feels easier now," she replied. "You adapt fast." Mira smiled lightly. "Thank you," Rix paused. "Most people do not accept correction so calmly." "Why not?" Mira asked honestly. "They think it means they are weak." Mira shook her head. "Correction means someone wants to help." Rix looked at her for a moment, eyes calm and thoughtful. "You see things with softness, and is that bad?" she asked gently. "No," he answered. "It is simply new." Mira smiled softly. "Maybe new can be good." Rix did not smile, but something warm flickered in his eyes. After basic training, Rix held out the practice staff. "Today we test your timing," he said. Mira accepted the staff, feeling its solid weight in her hands. "I'll try my best." "I know," Rix replied quietly. He moved into position, holding his staff loosely. "Try to touch my arm." Mira took a small breath. "That's difficult." "You're fast. Still try," he said. Mira stepped forward. Her staff moved forward with careful speed, aiming for Rix's arm. He stepped aside smoothly, the motion almost effortless. Again, she moved again. Again he avoided it, but this time his eyes watched her more closely. "Your aim is focused," he said, "but your step is too soft." Mira nodded. "I'll make it stronger." For the next several minutes, she repeated the motion again and again. Each time, Rix corrected a small detail: hand position, foot angle, timing. Mira listened to every instruction. Finally, after many tries, her staff touched Rix's arm gently. Mira's eyes widened. "I did it!" Rix looked down at the staff resting lightly against his arm. His expression did not show excitement, but his voice softened in a way she had never heard before. "Yes," he said. "You did," Mira smiled brightly. "Thank you for guiding me." "You learn quickly," he replied. "That is why you succeeded." Mira lowered her staff. "And because my teacher is patient." Rix blinked. "I am not patient." "You are," she corrected with a gentle tone. "You just don't notice." He stood quietly for a moment, unsure what to say. Mira walked toward the water station and took a drink. When she returned, Rix was still standing in the same place, as if thinking deeply. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. "You," he answered honestly. Mira paused, surprised. "Me?" "Yes," he said. "You listen to every word I say, but you do not obey blindly. You think. You choose. You move with understanding." Mira felt warmth rise in her chest. "I try to learn fully," Rix nodded slowly. "You learn with heart, and you teach with care," Mira said gently. Rix looked away, almost shy, a rare sight in someone so strong. After training, they sat on the floor to rest. Mira stretched her legs while Rix sat with his back straight, hands resting calmly on his knees. For a while, neither spoke. The hall was quiet except for their soft breaths. Finally, Rix said, "May I ask you a question?" Mira smiled. "Of course. Now why do you push yourself so hard?" he asked softly. Mira looked down for a moment, thinking. Then she lifted her eyes to meet his. "Because I want to stand beside you," she said simply. "Not behind you. Not far from you. But beside you." Rix paused. "Many do not wish to stand close to me." "Why?" Mira asked gently. He took a slow breath. "Because I look different. Because I am stronger than most. Because I speak few words." Mira shook her head softly. "None of those things scare me." "You say that easily," Rix replied. "Because I mean it," she said. Rix looked into her eyes. For the first time, Mira saw something vulnerable behind his strength. Not weakness, but a quiet longing to be understood. "You do not fear my size?" he asked. "No." "You do not fear my voice?" "No." "You do not fear my presence?" "Never," Mira said, her voice warm and steady. Rix lowered his gaze. And for the first time ever, he seemed unsure. Mira reached out gently, not touching him, but simply placing her hand near his to show comfort. "You are strong," she said softly, "but you are also kind. That is why I trust you." Rix looked up at her slowly. Trust is something I give rarely. I know, Mira whispered. But I hope one day you will trust me too. Rix stared at her, searching her eyes for something, fear, doubt, pride, but found none. Only calm honesty, he nodded once. Perhaps I already do. Mira's breath caught for a moment. Something warm spread through her chest. Something gentle, something deep. She smiled softly. I'm glad. After their rest, they continued with light exercises. Mira noticed that Rix guided her differently now. His corrections were softer, his tone warmer. His eyes more observant, not to judge but to support. When she stumbled slightly, Rix stepped forward instinctively, his hand ready to catch her. But she balanced herself. I'm fine, she said with a smile. He nodded. Good. But his hand stayed lifted for a second longer than needed before he lowered it. Later that evening, they walked together toward the dining area. The ship was calm, with crew members greeting them as they passed. You have many friends, Rix observed. Mira nodded. Yes, the crew is kind. They smile at you, he added. That's normal, she said softly. They do not smile at me, he said simply. Not hurt, just stating a fact. Mira looked at him gently. Because they don't know you yet. Rix looked down at her with quiet curiosity. Do you know me? Mira held his gaze. I am trying. And what have you learned so far? That you are strong, she said softly, but careful. Serious but gentle. And that you care deeply, even if you hide it. Rix did not respond right away. His amber eyes softened. You see beyond my surface? Yes, Mira whispered. And I like what I see. Rix turned his head slightly as if unsure how to handle the warmth in her words. When they reached the dining area, Rix stopped. What is it? Mira asked. I will eat later, he said. I need time to think. Mira smiled warmly. Then I won't stop you. He turned to leave but paused, looking back at her. Your company is steady. That's good? She asked softly. Rix nodded. Yes, it is good. Mira's smile grew gentle. I'm happy. He gave a slow blink, a sign of respect in his culture. Mira, he said quietly, today you moved with more strength. Because you guided me, she replied. Rix held her gaze for a long moment. Tomorrow, he said softly, we will move forward again. I'll be ready, Mira answered. Rix gave one last look, warm, thoughtful, almost grateful, before walking away. Mira watched him leave, her heart calm and full. The walls around him were beginning to fall, not broken, not shattered, just gently opening, and Mira stepped through them with quiet courage. The next morning on the ship Aurora Wing, Aaron woke up before dawn. The artificial light still slept in a dim blue shade, and the air felt cool. She sat on the side of her small bed and stretched her arms slowly. Her body still felt tired, but her mind was sharply awake. Something inside her felt different. She did not feel fear anymore. She felt responsibility and something even stronger, a rising hope. Across the room, Kale stood in silence, already awake, already thinking. His posture was straight, and his long shadow stretched across the floor from the dim light panel behind him. He had not slept much, but he did not look tired. His alien features held a calm focus. Aaron stepped closer. You did not rest? She asked softly. I rested enough, Kyle replied. There is work to do today. Aaron nodded. She already knew. Today they had to explore the dark signal that had been calling her dream after dream. The strange beacon inside the quiet part of space where no star shined. Before she could speak again, Captain Morell's voice came through the ship's intercom. Aaron, Kale, report to the command deck. The two looked at each other for a moment, then began walking. On the command deck was brighter, with screens showing maps, readings, and quiet alerts. Captain Morell stood near the center table with a serious expression. He was a patient man, known for cautious decisions, but today there was something new in his eyes. Concern mixed with hope. Chief Engineer Sorrow was already there, tapping through logs. Pilot Lyra sat in her chair, watching the course map carefully. The room felt like a waiting heart before a long breath. Good, the captain said when Aaron and Kale arrived. We have new data. Everyone leaned closer. Sorrow pressed a button, and the main screen lit up with an image of a floating structure, huge, dark, and surrounded by soft blue waves of energy. Aaron inhaled sharply. That's it. That's the place for my dream. Kale's eyes narrowed. It matches the description you gave last night, he said with quiet certainty. Captain Morrell nodded slowly. We are still far, but the readings are stable. This structure, it is old, extremely old, but the energy signal is active, steady, and repeating, and it reacts to Aaron's presence. The room became silent. Aaron held the railing tightly. She had expected something unusual, but seeing it made the whole situation feel bigger than she imagined. She felt small for a moment inside the large universe, but she also felt chosen. She could not explain why. What do we do now? Lyra asked. We approach, the captain said. But carefully, very carefully. Kyle stepped forward slightly. I request to accompany Aaron when we enter the structure. Captain Morrell raised an eyebrow. You are a guardian, not an explorer. Kyle did not move. She carries a connection to the signal. I have sworn to protect her. That is my place. The captain looked at Aaron. Do you want him with you? Aaron did not even need a second. Yes, he should come. Something in her voice held certainty. Kale glanced at her for a moment, and his calm expression softened just a little. Then it is decided, the captain said firmly. Both of you will go. Preparing for the unknown later that day, Aaron prepared in the gear room. She checked her gloves, boots, communicator, and light pack. Every item felt heavier than usual, not because of weight, but because of meaning. Kale entered the room silently. He moved with a graceful control that Aaron always noticed. He carried his own equipment, simple, strong, and precise. You are quiet today, Aaron said. Kale looked at her thoughtfully. This mission holds risk, he said, but your spirit is steady. That is good. I am more nervous than I look, she admitted with a small smile. Kyle tilted his head slightly. Nervousness is natural. Courage is choosing to move anyway. You are doing that? Aaron looked down at her gloves. I am trying. Kale observed her for a moment, then said, When we enter the structure, stay close to me. If the energy shifts, I will guide you. Aaron nodded. I know. There was a short pause. Kale added, You have changed since the day we met. You are not the same person who stepped onto this ship. Aaron looked up in surprise. You think so? Yes, Kale said calmly. You do not break easily, Aaron of Earth, you rise. Her heart beat faster, not from fear but from something warm. She wondered why his words always held such weight. Before she could say anything, the intercom called them again. Approach time in 10 minutes. Report to the dock airlock. Aaron took a deep breath. Let's go. Approaching the silent giant, the small shuttle detached from the Aurora wing and moved slowly toward the dark structure floating alone in space. The structure was massive, like a forgotten temple drifting in the void. Its surface looked smooth in some areas, cracked in others. Soft lines of blue light ran across certain parts, glowing in slow pulses like a heartbeat. Kale piloted the shuttle expertly. Aaron watched the structure grow larger on the screen, her chest tightening with each second. It feels like it is waiting for us, she whispered. Kyle nodded. That is possible. As they reached the surface, an opening appeared, smooth and circular like a door waking from sleep. Did you do that? Aaron asked. No, Kale said. It responded on its own. Aaron shivered softly. Not out of fear, out of wonder. Kale guided the shuttle inside. The interior was wide, empty, almost like a giant hall. Their shuttle landed gently on a flat platform. We are inside, Kyle confirmed. Aaron stared ahead. It looks like a place built for something important. Perhaps, Kyle replied. But we must be cautious. They stepped out. Inside the ancient hall, the hall was quiet. The walls were smooth and dark, reflecting a faint blue light that seemed to come from nowhere. There was no dust, no debris. Everything felt clean, untouched, preserved. Aaron walked forward slowly. It feels alive, she said. Kyle scanned the surroundings. The energy levels are stable, but unusual. They moved toward you. Aaron touched a panel on the wall. The moment her hand came close, the panel lit up softly, showing unfamiliar symbols. Kale stepped closer. It recognizes you. Aaron swallowed hard. But why me? I'm just normal. Kale looked at her with calm certainty. You are not. You have strength that does not come from power or training. It comes from heart. Perhaps this place understands that. Aaron felt her cheeks warm slightly. Before she could answer, The floor beneath them began to glow with soft golden lines. The hall changed. The walls shifted, transforming into patterns that resembled star maps. Arin gasped. "This isn't beautiful." Kale nodded, eyes focused. "It is showing us something." A gentle hum filled the hall and a round center platform lit up. "Step forward," the soft energy seemed to say without speaking. Arin felt drawn to it. "I think it wants me to stand there." Kale placed a hand in front of her, stopping her gently. "I will go first." Arin shook her head. "Kale, it reacts to me. If you go, it might do nothing. Or something wrong." Kale hesitated, something rare for him. "I do not want you in danger." Arin's voice was steady. "I know, but I feel it. I am meant to do this." Kale looked into her eyes, searching for doubt. He found none. "Very well," he said quietly. "But I will stay beside you." They stepped onto the platform together. The memory light. The moment Arin stood on the platform, a soft light rose around her, not touching her, just surrounding her like a gentle dome. Kale stood just outside the edge, watchful and ready. The light showed images, stars forming, planets growing, civilizations rising. They were not like human worlds or Kale's worlds. They were older, calmer, wiser. Arin whispered, "This is their memory." The final image that appeared was a single symbol glowing brighter than the others. Arin stared at it, unable to look away. "I've seen this in my dreams." Kale stepped closer. "What does it mean?" Arin shook her head slowly. "I don't know, but it feels like a promise." The light faded gently, leaving the hall quiet again. Arin stepped back, breathing slowly. It didn't hurt, it felt peaceful. Kale studied her closely. "You handled it well." Arin smiled softly. "I didn't do anything amazing." "You did," Kale said with calm conviction. "You stayed true to yourself. That is rare." Before Arin could respond, the hall lights flickered gently. A new door opened at the far end. Something deeper inside was calling. Kyle turned to her. "Are you ready?" Arin nodded. "Let's finish what we started." Together they walked into the new passage, toward the heart of the ancient structure, toward answers waiting in the silent void. Arin and Kale walked through the newly opened passage, their footsteps echoing softly in the ancient silence. The hallway felt different from the previous rooms, warmer, brighter, filled with a gentle gold glow that seemed to drift through the air like calm dust. It felt less like a building and more like a breathing place. Arin walked in front, following the quiet pull she felt in her chest. Kyle stayed close behind her, silent but alert. His presence felt steady, like a shield she could trust without question. The passage led them into a wide chamber shaped like a circle. In the center stood a tall crystal pillar, glowing with soft blue and gold light. The light shifted slowly, almost like a slow heartbeat. Arin stopped and stared. "This is the heart of this place," she whispered. Kale nodded. "Yes, and the source of the signal we followed." They stepped closer to the pillar. The energy around it felt calm yet powerful, like old knowledge waiting to speak. "Arin," Kyle said gently, "before you touch anything, pause and breathe." Arin looked at him and smiled a little. "Worried?" Kale's eyes softened slightly. "I am cautious. There is a difference." Arin laughed quietly and placed a hand on her chest, breathing deeply. She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with calm determination. "Okay," she said. "Let's see what it wants to show." The awakening light. When Arin stepped closer, the pillar responded immediately. The golden light brightened, wrapping around her like a warm breeze. Kyle tensed but did not move away. He watched every shift in the energy, ready to protect her. Arin lifted her hand slowly and touched the surface of the crystal. The chamber changed at once. Soft waves of light rose from the floor and drifted upward, filling the space with glowing shapes. Images formed in the air, floating, gentle like memories made of sunshine. Arin gasped softly. The images showed the ancient creators of this structure, tall beings with calm expressions, eyes bright like morning stars. They traveled through galaxies carrying knowledge, peace, and hope. "They were explorers," Arin whispered. "But more than that," Kale nodded slowly. "Yes, keep watching." The images shifted. They showed a great storm in space, dark clouds swallowing stars, twisting everything in its path. Planets trembled. Light faded. The ancient beings worked together to protect what they could. They fought to save others, Aaron said softly. Then a final image appeared. The ancient beings building this very structure. The beacon. They placed their last strength into it, creating a light that would call across time, searching for someone who could help finish their work. Aaron's heart tightened. They built it for a future traveler. Cale stepped closer, his voice low. And it answered you. The light faded gently, leaving Aaron standing before the pillar with tears forming in her eyes, not from pain, but from deep emotion. They believed someone, someday, would listen, she whispered. Cale's voice was steady. And you did. The hidden message, the pillar changed again. A new line of symbols appeared, simple, glowing quietly. Aaron frowned. I don't understand this part. Kyle stepped beside her, studying the symbols. It is an instruction, he said after a moment. A final message. Aaron looked up at him. What does it say? Kyle translated slowly, carefully. To the one who hears the echo of our hope. Light grows where courage walks. You are not chosen by power, but by heart. Carry the light forward. Aaron's breath caught. Me? Carry the light, but I'm just human. Kyle looked at her with calm certainty. You have already carried it. You followed the signal. You faced danger. You stayed true. Aaron lowered her eyes. I'm not special. Kyle shook his head gently. You are. Not because of destiny. Because of choice. Something warm filled Aaron's chest. She did not know what to say, so she simply nodded. The beacon's gift, the crystal pillar, pulsed once more. A small light separated from it, floating toward Aaron like a soft star. Aaron stepped back in surprise. What is it doing? It is giving you something, Cale said. The small light hovered in front of her chest as if waiting for permission. Aaron looked at Cale. Should I take it? Kyle held her gaze. If your heart says yes, then yes. Aaron took a deep breath. My heart says yes. The light moved gently into her hands. It felt warm, not hot, not cold, just calmly alive. The glow wrapped around her fingers like a soft ribbon. What is this? She asked. Kyle studied it. A memory seed. A message, a guide. It will help your people understand what the ancient ones wanted to share. This is their trust. Aaron felt overwhelmed, but also honored. I'll protect it. I promise. Cale nodded with approval. When darkness stirred, before they could step away from the pillar, the chamber trembled slightly. The floor vibrated like a distant wave passing under them. Aaron grabbed Cale's arm instinctively. What was that? Cale checked his scanner. The structure is shifting. It may be preparing to shut down now that it has passed on its message. Another soft tremor passed. Aaron looked around with worried eyes. So we need to leave? Yes, Cale said firmly. Now. Aaron tightened her grip on the glowing memory seed and followed Kyle toward the passage they had entered. But halfway through the hall, the doorway began to close slowly. Hurry, Cale said. Aaron ran. Cale ran beside her, pace steady, protective. They reached the doorway just as it narrowed. Cale placed a hand on the edge, pushing with controlled strength. Aaron slid through first, and Cale followed quickly before the door closed behind them. Aaron stared at the sealed entrance with a heavy breath. That was close. Cale gave a small nod. Too close. Returning to the light, they hurried back to the landing platform and boarded the small shuttle. Cale prepared the engines, and Aaron strapped herself in, holding the memory seed close. The shuttle lifted and flew out of the ancient structure. Once they reached open space, Aaron looked back through the window. The giant building glowed softly one last time, then slowly dimmed as if peacefully going to sleep. It's beautiful, she whispered. Cale looked at it too, his expression thoughtful. It waited a very long time. Now it can rest, Aaron smiled sadly. And now, it's our turn to carry what it left behind. Cale nodded. On the Aurora wing, when they returned to the main ship, Captain Morrell and the crew greeted them with relief and pride. Lyra clapped her hands. You did it. You both came back safe. Sorrow looked at the memory seed in Aaron's hands with wide eyes. And you brought something powerful, didn't you? Aaron nodded. It contains their message. Their history. Their hope. Captain Morrell placed a hand on her shoulder. You did well, Aaron. Very well. Aaron smiled humbly. Cale stood beside her, silent but proud. The crew could see the change in both of them. A quiet moment later, when the ship settled on a calm course home, Aaron stood near one of the large windows, looking out at the stars. Kale approached quietly and stood beside her. "You are thinking," he said. Aaron nodded. "About everything. About that place. About the message. About the future." Kale looked at her gently. "Does it frighten you?" Aaron shook her head slowly. "No, it inspires me." A calm smile touched Kale's face. "That is good." Aaron looked up at him. "Kyle, thank you. For staying with me. For believing in me." Kale's expression softened more than she'd ever seen. "You made it easy to believe." Aaron felt warmth rise in her chest. Carrying the light forward, the stars stretched endlessly before them. The universe felt big, but Aaron no longer felt small. She felt guided, trusted, chosen, not by fate, but by her own heart. She looked at the memory seed glowing softly in her hands. "Kyle," she said, "what do we do next?" Kale looked at the stars and then at her. "We carry the light forward," he said. "Together," Aaron smiled. "Yes, together." The Aurora Wing continued its journey home, carrying hope across the quiet sky. Hope from an ancient past, hope for a brighter future, and hope shared between the hearts of a human and an alien who stood side by side, ready for whatever came next. And in the silent universe, the promise the ancient ones left behind finally had a place to grow again.